Okay, zero technical problems today, everyone, in the I Love Jeet Kune world. Welcome, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, and this is broadcast episode number 32, I think it is. Yes, so this is the one about Jeet Kune evolution, stagnation, evolution, or devolution. The genesis of today's broadcast came from my experience last weekend. I was down in Barbados, so I was back home in Barbados, and I don't know how it is with you, but when you get back to the land of not my birth, but where I grew up, things you tend to relax a lot more than you might normally, right? And so the difference between being in Barbados with the fresh air and the natural sunlight and the openness and what have you is a little bit different from being here in the U.S., the land of political correctness, and where you got to be careful about what you say and who you say it to and how you say it. Right. So anyhow, so we're down in Barbados, right? And I don't know at what point it was that my student Wayne Quinton, some of you might remember Wayne from the episode 1 of the Jeet Kune dialogues, right? So at some point, Wayne wrote these words on the whiteboard: accumulation, absorption, addition, elimination, right? I didn't see him write them, and I want you to hang on to those words because they'll come back later on in the broadcast. So keep those 4 words in mind: accumulation, absorption, addition, elimination. Just like last week, I'll have to make a disclaimer on this one. If I go off on any topic, if I go off on any subject, again, it is just me either giving my opinion, posing questions that are designed to make you think, and it's not at all about disparaging someone else's approach if it happens to be different from mine, right? And I'm probably going to say that again before we finish up today's broadcast. So I'm in the land of my youth, surrounded by oh so familiar sights, right? Okay, for the purposes of today's storytelling, we'll divide the discussion into 3 sections, and I'll call them 1, the early days, 2, the now time. So this would be Bruce Lee's now time. For people like us, his followers in Jeet Kune, it would be the mid time, and then 3, the future years, right? So the early days, what was Jeet Kune designed in its initial stages, right? What was it designed to be, and why was it thusly designed? So it's the early 1960s, and you're Bruce Lee, and you've been studying this Wing Chun style, and you find that its emphasis on things like the sticky hands and economical delivery and the simultaneous offense and defense are really useful for you. But then you move to America, and your horizons expand, and because of certain encounters, and you realize that the Wing Chun is not 100% relevant anymore. So you modify what you're doing by adding techniques from other systems to which you'd had exposure, as well as stuff that you may have picked up since you've been in the United States, right? So now we get to the now time or the mid time, right? As time goes by and you continue to educate yourself in the martial art, and you begin to formulate the idea of drawing up your own system based on your experiences thus far. So to you, a blend of Wing Chun, boxing, fencing seemed to make a lot of sense, right? And you go so far as to, so we're looking at the commentaries book today, because I couldn't find my copy of Letters of the Dragon. I don't know, I seem to have misplaced that. But we do know that Bruce Lee wrote at one point, I'm having a Kung Fu system drawn up. This system is a combination of chiefly Wing Chun, fencing, and boxing. As for Kung Fu training, I'll have them written down when it is finished, right? So, but then you have your fight with Wang Jack Man, and that changes everything, right? So much so that you lose faith in a lot of what you've invested in thus far, right? And so a few pages down in the commentaries book, right, Bruce Lee writes again that I've lost faith in the Chinese classical arts, though I still call mine Chinese, because basically all styles are products of dry land swimming, even the Wing Chun school, right? You end up giving the name Jeet Kune Do to your basic concept, but you stress that you have not created a new style, right? So here he says, I stress again, I've not created or invented any kind of martial art. Jeet Kune Do is derived from what I have learned, plus my evaluation on it. Thus, my JKD is not confined by any kind of martial arts. On the contrary, I welcome those who like JKD to study it and improve it, right? So we've got background and setting and what have you in, to the best of my knowledge, Bruce Lee's own words, right? So now we'll shift to the future, right? Years for Jeet Kune Do. So I have my Facebook friend Ramon Rodriguez, right? He asked me this a while ago, and I maybe should have gotten permission from him to publish it, but hopefully I won't get myself in trouble for it, right? So he asked me if I thought that it was probable or even possible that in the future the Jeet Kune Do philosophy will divert from using Bruce Lee's name, his face, and his image as a reference, as we've seen occur in other martial art philosophies, right? So then he cites the art of Te, Okinawan Te, right, which was conceptualized by Kusanku and taught to his inner circle, right, comprising of people like Chatanyara and Kanga Sakugawa. And then they passed it down to a guy named Bushi Matsumura. And Matsumura was the sensei of Gishin Funakoshi. Now, most people might not recognize those four other names that I mentioned, but they might recognize the Funakoshi name because he is the founder of Shotokan. And just about every broadcast, I talk about my great love for Shotokan, right? So here we have a well-established martial art method, right, Shotokan, and very few people can name the historical features of it beyond Funakoshi and Waseda University in 1932, right? So Ramon's question is, do you think it's probable that the same is likely to happen within the confines of JKD, where the images of Dan Inosanto, Taki Kimura, James Lee, Bruce Lee himself, right, are replaced by a completely new set of faces in the distant future? And then his question is, what would become of the essence of Jeet Kune Do if we were to lose Bruce Lee as its main reference point? So I told him, like Carlos has mentioned in the comments, I don't see it happening simply because there's enough technology and media representations of Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do and Taki Kimura and Dan Inosanto to keep it alive. Now, that's not to say that there hasn't already been a deterioration or a degeneration in the quality of the Jeet Kune Do history, but you can bet that there will always be people like yours truly with his loud mouth every Wednesday, right, doing their level best to keep the understanding and the knowledge of the true art out there. But yes, with passage of time, there are always new faces, there are always new generations, right? I mean, so within JKD, we have the Bruce Lee image. Look at it right there behind me. As I promised last week, I'm working on getting the Dan Inosanto image behind me, right? But we've got Tim Tackett, for example, Chris Kent, Cass Magda, Paul Vunak, Burton Richardson, those kinds of people, right? So then Ramon wasn't done with me, so he had a follow-up question. And he says, well, I find it interesting that you mentioned, for example, somebody like Burton Richardson, whose lineage links him from Dan Inosanto to Conor McGregor in the sport of MMA through Matt Thornton and John Kavanagh, right? So I have a basic idea what he's talking about in that linkage. So his question is, will the growth and the expansion of MMA as a concept in modern times lead to the decline of interest in Jeet Kune Do to the point where Jeet Kune Do is simply remembered with some degree of nostalgia, all right? Rather than being respected as the perpetually current, evolving, and still very effective martial art concept that it is, which is it is an excellent question, because to a certain degree, I think it has, right, or will. I think there is evidence of that degeneration already occurring, and that's pretty much what I said to him. That's what I meant by saying that there has already been a deterioration and a degeneration in the quality. But it's not even just in the quality of the Jeet Kune Do history, right, or attempts to maintain the history. It's actually a deterioration and a degeneration in the quality of what is being put out there and passing for Jeet Kune Do, right? So I heard a horror story from one of from my Tosin Daniel while we were down in Barbados when he was up here in LA, over in LA, and he had an experience with some so-called JKD people, right? So here, let me give you an example, right? So I'm going to give you a pictorial example again. So this is Sifu Dan's book, Absorb What Is Useful. Copyright on this thing is 1982. So that's what, 36 years ago, right? So there are 30 pages, right? Dig this. From page 58. So here's page 58, Transcendent Technique, right? So from page 58, 30 pages down to page 88, right? This Transcendent Technique section, you can see where they're analyzing the classical approach, right, to empty hands training, and then how the Jeet Kune Do approach pokes holes in the classical approach, right? You get that? And then from page 89 to 101, so that's what, 12 pages, right? Or 22 pages, something, right? 12 pages, something, right? Then they do the same thing for weaponry, right? How the classical approach to weaponry, how the Jeet Kune Do concept applied to weapons training, primarily through the Filipino Kali, right? How that pokes holes in the classical approach to weaponry. And the same thing is done for like classic self-defense stuff, you know, right? So to me, what that is, right? That's showing you how there was a thing that we used to talk about in JKD, the acquisition of the educated eye, right? So that's showing how the educated eye that one develops from Jeet Kune Do training is applied to the classical approach, and then it makes everything better, right? Excuse me, right? Wait, let me sip the coffee here for a second because I'm talking too fast. Okay, so here's some personal experience of this, right? Back in the late 1980s, which was when I came. That's when my experience with Pencak Silat, for example, started at the hands of both. And sorry, thank you, Mr. Wells. I keep forgetting. There we go. Today's rendition. And like I told you, I got some new stuff coming in on order because by the time I'm done, everybody's going to know all my shirts, right? So I got some new stuff coming in, right? Okay, so Pencak Silat. So in the late 80s, Sifu Dan and Cass Magda, they showed me how the what they call enter with penetration, right? So the penetrative approach to your entry technique in Pencak Silat. If you take that idea and you cross it over to your entry technique and your trapping technique in the Jun Fan or the Wing Chun, it makes for a more effective entry, right? So then, you learn to add more oomph, as I call it, to your Jun Fan trapping. Then the idea of, I think we've talked about this on a previous broadcast, right? So it's the idea of learn the technique, put it into the flow, right? Add the counter, add the recounter. When I was exposed to that, I was like, wow, this is incredible stuff. Because that idea of adding the counter and adding the recounter, you can spend the rest of your life developing training material, because you can take one skill. I could take the punching skill, and the counter that I add could be from grappling. The recounter could be back to punching. So you take punching, kicking, trapping, grappling, and you blend all that stuff up, and I guarantee you will never run out of material to train that will prepare you for just about any situation that you can encounter. And then, of course, because we're JKD people and because we aim to be well-rounded, then we take all of that we've done for empty hands, and then we apply the same concept to our weapons training, right? So then there we go. We're training forever. We're training for the rest of our lives, right? So Wayne's breakdown, so we go back to those 4 words, right? What Wayne's breakdown is that today in the Jeet Kune Do world, you see sometimes a lot, in some places, right? You see a lot of accumulation of technique, but not so much absorption, right? As in absorb what is useful, right? So there's a lot of accumulation of technique, but not so much absorption. And so we have people adding stuff, like adding different disciplines, right, to their curricula, because there's not too much elimination or the hacking away of the unessentials, right? So, in this discussion about the evolution of Jeet Kune Do, I think we have to realize that Jeet Kune Do, it's not this autonomous entity that can evolve itself. The evolution is actually up to the practitioners of Jeet Kune Do, right? Students, instructors, and what have you. So it's up to the Jeet Kune Do practitioners of the world to ensure the continuous evolution of the art. The art cannot do it by itself, right? So it seems as if ultimately we can state that there's an argument, let's call it, for each of the 3 scenarios. You have Jeet Kune Do stagnating with those who do only what Bruce did, right? We have Jeet Kune Do evolving with those who continue to use the art to pursue their own and their students' continued development. And then we have Jeet Kune Do devolving into a fixed entity or a style or an art that's been added to whatever else it is that people are doing. So you get people who, whether they're legitimately certified or not, but you get people who, well, yeah, we do karate and we do Jeet Kune Do. We do jujitsu and we do Jeet Kune Do. And then you have old schoolers like me who are thinking, but wait, your Jeet Kune Do is supposed to come in and affect your jujitsu training, your karate training, your judo training, your whatever. It's not supposed to stay over there separate. I swear to you, this is how it was explained to me one time. This is long ago, so I can't remember who it was. But it was like, well, yeah, when we train the karate, we keep the gi tops on and the belt. But then when we train the Jeet Kune Do, we take the belts off and we take the karate tops off. So now we're in t-shirts, right? I left it alone. Like I would leave it alone even today, right? Because again, like I said, I want to stress that this is not a broad-based criticism of anybody's approach. Just because I don't know about it doesn't mean that it's not going on, right? I can talk about what I see, I can tell you what I think, I can give you my opinion, which is why I created the second show that we do on Fridays, the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues, because I want everybody in the martial art world, right, all the aficionados of Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do, to get as much knowledge and information as they can. I don't have all that knowledge and information, so I do the show as much as I do it for you, I do it for myself, for my own edification, right? So as a matter of fact, so that'll be a good lead-in and to finish up this broadcast. On Friday, the dialogue will be with Ron and Jesse James Kosakowski of Practical Self-Defense Training Center, right? So that will be 2 days from now, around the same time, 3 p.m., right? I think we'll finish it up there today. Guys, for real, on this one, because this is an important topic, the stagnation, devolution, or evolution of Jeet Kune Do. So I enjoy the fact that you guys come on and you spend a few minutes with me during the live broadcast. But I really want anybody who, if you pick this up on the replay, right, make a comment, ask a question, give me the feedback on how it is that you feel and what it is that you think about this question again of Jeet Kune Do stagnating, devolving, evolving, or what have you, right? That's it for today, right? So, like and comment. I will go through the replay and answer or re-comment myself. Check out the I Love Jeet Kune Do Quick Skill Series Volume 1, available for, immediate download at ilovejeetkunዶ.com. And I will see you, those of you who can check in, Friday at 3 p.m. on the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. Otherwise, next week, Wednesday, 3 p.m. again, and we'll do another episode of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. Everybody take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.